Hi, Liz.
Hey, Olu.
What could we possibly have on the agenda for today?
Well, today we're going to be talking about a few things. First, we're going to talk about the Republican tax plan. They finally came out with their budget plan, and it's exactly as you would expect. Lots of cuts, no reduction in spending. Then we're also going to talk about some follow up from our last episode. Just really, I guess, some helpful advice for people who are wondering what they can do other than threading about Kamala Harris. And then finally, some unsolicited advice for a celestial body that's heading to us, apparently, over the next few years.
Okay.
So, first topic, the tax or budget tax plan, whatever you want to call it, that the Republicans put forward. Finally, after months of speculation, like a new movie, it came out in theaters. Everyone was super excited. Were there any things that sort of stood out to you right away?
All right. So I'm actually reading the actual resolution. There's a document on house.gov. You can all go find it on the budget resolution. And so far in this 45-page document, there is no mention on any reductions on tax on tips, which was a major Trump plan. So it's shocking to me that this is the first budget bill and tax plan that he's released, and there's nothing about no tax on tips on it. And by shocking, I mean totally predictable.
But so the plan that you shared is talking through the advice or recommendations or requirements that they're sending to various departments and committees in the government. So it's basically a laundry list of places where they expect to make cuts and places where they expect to make increases in spending. And what was fascinating to me was the places where they're making cuts. They want to cut things in agriculture. They want to cut education. They want to cut energy, but they're increasing Homeland Security. They're increasing, of course, defense. And it's no surprise that they seem to be basically taking a saw through a lot of the safety net that has existed in the United States for decades. It's as I said, it's not surprising, but this cannot be what people wanted when they said we were going to reduce spending, right? Because that's not what's happening based on this list. There is going to be an increase in spending and therefore an increase in the deficit, and they're asking to raise the debt ceiling.
Absolutely. As usual, we have more money for defense and national security and the army and the military, which folks can say, okay, that's important, that's fine. Depends on your perspective on that. But it's so frustrating that we always have so much money for defense and wars, but we never have money for transportation. We never have money for education. We never have money for natural resources, like things about clean air and making sure your water is clean. That's like a basic thing that we should all expect from our government. They're about to cut that by $10 billion, right? And it's, what's that adage or what's that phrase? Show me your budget and I'll tell you what your values are.
Mm-hmm.
The GOP is letting us know that their values are really about keeping the wars going, apparently, or at least continue to fund the wars, which some of that might be righteous or unrighteous. Folks can debate that, but their values do not include making sure that people have good health care. They're cutting Medicare, they're cutting Medicaid. Their values don't include making sure we have safe transportation. Our bridges are falling apart. Everybody remembers Baltimore like last year.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is being cut while we continue to spend more on defense. And it's mind-blowing to me because I was told by people on TikTok and Twitter that Trump is anti-war and he is going to end the endless wars
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
spend more on the working person and spend less on wars. And this budget is the exact opposite of that.
100%. Not only is it the exact opposite of the priorities we were told he had, it's the exact opposite of what we were told would happen with regards to the deficit and spending. Every conservative Republican person online was going on and on and on about how Biden's Infrastructure Act, the green tax credits, all of that was going to be increasing the deficit. That was bad. We don't want spending. We need to make cuts. We're spending too much. And this proposal is asking for $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, which would reduce the amount of money the US government collects, and asking for an increase in the debt ceiling at the same time. So how do we connect those two? If you're telling me that we're going to be spending less money as a country, why are we increasing the debt ceiling to borrow more? And the reason is because we're not cutting spending. What we're doing is we're going to cut the revenue for the government, increase spending, and therefore need to increase the debt ceiling. How does that make sense? I mean, if you're just a regular person, if your salary goes down and you keep spending more than you earn, you're going to go into debt. I thought debt was the big thing that Republicans didn't want. I thought the deficit was the big thing that the Republicans didn't like. And now all of a sudden that's thrown out of the window because it's this is the Trump tax plan.
It's insane, right? All those people who've told us, Trump is a businessman. He cares about debt. He's going to cut the debt. Like, they've been screaming about the debt ceiling. They are always yelling about the debt ceiling. And as you said, they've actually raised the debt ceiling by $4 trillion is what they're proposing. And they're doing that because if they cut taxes on higher earning folks, as they have predicted, they're going to run into a deficit, right? Because if you don't collect taxes and you don't have any money coming in, you're going to run into debt. This is just a basic law of revenue and spending.
Yeah, no, it's pretty straightforward. I think even a child can understand if I give you some money and you use more than that, you owe money. You're going to owe money. It's pretty straightforward. What is also interesting and fascinating to me is some of the conversation that happened around the time of the election was around Trump's tax cuts from 2017 and whether or not they would be extended. And if we continue down the path of Trump's original tax plan, the one in 2017 when he was first president, we know what's going to happen because we have had, 8 years to analyze Trump's 2017 tax plan, its impact on people's budgets, people's salaries, people's lives. We know it's proven that his tax plan helped the wealthy, screwed over the middle class and lower class. That's just what happened. It doesn't matter if he initially gave tax cuts to everyone so people felt good for a couple of years. Many, many tax research groups will tell you that Trump's tax plan helped rich people, did not help anyone else. And it seems like we're going down that same path again, where that's where the tax cuts are going to go. They're not going to go to your, I always say Jan in Ohio, but Jan in Ohio with her 3 kids is not the one getting the tax cut in Trump's tax plan, in Trump world. It's going to be rich people. I think you mentioned something about the groups that would benefit the most, or one of the groups that would benefit the most from Trump's tax plan.
Yes, it's being projected that people who make more than 80% of the entire population will see some more tax credit and see less of a tax burden. And then the highest cuts are going to people who are actually in the 1%, right? And this is a problem because
But
a
hold
lot
on.
of
What's that in numbers though? So like you said it's the top 20% of earners are going to be the ones who make the most money. Or who it's not who make
yes,
the most money, who benefit the most. So what's that number wise?
yes. So it gets even more specific than that. For people who are 70-year-old and above, in the 80th to 100th income percentile, they will have a significant lifetime gain of $43,600. This is according to an article from Newsweek. Meanwhile, younger individuals and future generations would actually fare worse. They would face the most significant losses, ranging from $11,700 to $22,000, which I find fascinating because all of the people that I have encountered who have been most vocal and anti-democrats and anti-liberals are younger individuals, like the 70-year-olds with high income are, chilling in their second, third homes. Like, they're not getting into arguments online. It's y'all. You guys were like millennials, Gen Z, making bad
I
decisions.
mean, some of the people, some of them are. I've gotten into it with some senior citizens who should probably just be on a beach somewhere, sitting in their homes that they bought for $20 in 1965. Those people are still out there. But I want to say, like, if you're hearing this and you're like, what does that mean numbers wise for salary or income or wages, whatever you want to call it? Let's just use the number that most tax people are using. It's like 200 grand and above. If you're earning above $200,000, and I think it was $400,000, 360 actually. But if you're, let's just call it $200,000. If you're below $200,000, this is not a tax plan for you. It's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. It's going to help your CEOs, your bosses, your people who are fine already, right? Those people don't need help. It's just more of the trickle-down economics that we keep hearing about, right? That's what is always happening when Republicans get into office. They say, and the justification this time is the same. They say this is what they need to do to spur economic growth, to make sure things are even more, popping on Wall Street. This is what they say needs to happen. So that's why they're giving those people the tax cut, those, quote, job creators, those executives, those corporations. Those are the people who apparently need even more help from the government in order to grow the economy. You can do with that information what you want, but we all know that's what Republicans believe in. So it's no surprise that their tax plan is following that path once again.
Yep, and to put that 200K in context, right? So 50% of American households actually make less than $7,000 to $5,000, right? So that's just half of the population don't even qualify. The median household income is $80,000, right? And only about 5% of all Americans make more than 200K, right? And this is a problem. Everybody thinks that they're, just a millionaire, just chilling, waiting to become one of the people that will be protected under Trump's plan. Everybody thinks that they're going to be the big entrepreneur and the big business person, and it just doesn't happen mathematically. It's not likely to happen. And instead of voting for your own current situation, people keep voting in an aspirational manner. That doesn't make sense to me.
It really doesn't. I hear that a lot, actually, that aspirational belief that if they don't want rich people to be taxed more today because one day they may be rich themselves. The odds are slim, y'all. they're so slim. I've seen studies about the like success rate of moving from one socioeconomic group or income bracket basically to another. It is very hard to do in America. It gets harder every day. And it's going to be even more hard when they do things like cut the Department of Education. One of the biggest ways to be one of these people who this tax plan applies to is education. And, I'm not saying you can't make six figures, mid-high six figures as a business owner if you're in, a construction industry or plumbing, or you have your own electrician company, obviously those people also make money. We're not knocking them, but everyone is not going to be an owner of a construction company. Some of us have to go to college, and when you go to college, it is significantly more expensive than it used to be. So you're already starting behind if your parents don't have money to help you avoid student loans. And now you have to dig yourself out of that hole while also somehow building wealth. It's very difficult to move out of the socioeconomic class and income level you were born into. It is very hard to do. And I think in America, we really highlight the success stories and people who did that. And that's excellent. And they are inspirational people. But the odds are so slim that you're the special snowflake that's going to make it out. So why not vote logically for the person who's planning to help you today instead of the person who may help you, maybe possibly with your 2% chance of earning, mid six figures. That's never made sense to me as a reason for supporting trickle-down economics. And it continues year after year, election after election. You continue to hear people say, I know they're going to tax rich, I know they're going to cut taxes for rich people, but one day, this might apply to me. And so I want to avoid that today.
Absolutely. There's no logic. There's no logic to that, because not only do you get taxed more as a poorer person, these kind of budgets actually put more barriers to you being able to become that billionaire that you think you are going to be. Because last time I checked, if you get polio in your childhood or as an adult, you don't get to become a billionaire. I don't understand how many, if they cut Medicaid and Medicare and allow RFK Jr. to do everything he wants to do with our health, how many of y'all are going to then grow up to become those billionaires? I don't get what the logic is here.
I don't know either. And there's definitely a sense from some of the other things I hear about people who support these tax plans are the people who say, for example, you don't need to go to college. You could just let's take AI, which is the thing that everyone is talking about now, right? There's people who say things like, oh, you can just learn AI online. You don't have to go to college. You have the internet. The internet has everything you need to learn. Sure, maybe. But if your plan is to get a job at a big tech company, your self-taught AI is not going to get you the job at the tech company. The odds are you have to know someone, which again, you won't know if you didn't, go to college. Where are you going to meet that engineer that already works there that's going to get your resume in front of the people you need to get in front of? It's just basic things like this. The other piece of logic I hear is the people who say things like, okay, first they came for the billionaires and I said nothing. Then they came for the millionaires and I said nothing. Then they came from the, 100,000-aires and I said nothing. There's also a sense from people that if, for example, Democrats tax the wealthy, eventually those tax increases are going to make their way down through all the income brackets until it begins to affect the people who are, supporters of trickle-down economics. That's another thing. They always say it's a slippery slope, even though, again, there's no evidence of this, right? When Democrats increase taxes on the wealthy, there is no corresponding increase on taxes for the middle class or low-income people. That just doesn't happen. But there's this perception that eventually they will also get taxed more because the government just loves spending, even though they continue to vote for the party that constantly, frequently increases government spending.
It's like this bizarro world where they believe both in trickle-down economics and also trickle-down tax burdens. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very weird.
I honestly, I don't know how people can still continue to vote for these guys, right? And how people can still continue to claim that these people have your best interests at heart. Anyone who's been to a school anywhere in this country, not to even mention inner city schools, you know that we need all of the funding we can get. Teachers are using their own money to buy crayons and like
School
supplies for
supplies, yeah.
their classrooms. And the idea that you're going to, well, actually they're going to cut 330 billion from the Department of Education over the next 10 years and also probably just dissolve it altogether. And then I saw somebody who is like a school administrator, some woman who was being interviewed, and she was like, "This is not what I voted for," even though she works in the school. And in my mind, I'm just like, okay, but like, you're an educated person, right, with at least a bachelor's degree, if not an advanced degree, given the level that you've attained in your school jurisdiction. Like, did you not specifically even look at what affects you? Like, I know you heard that he was against transgender people on television, fine. But did you actually go and be like, I work in a school. I wonder what Trump's plan for schools are?
No, 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 she didn't. Just like that farmer who also didn't look into what Trump's plan was for agriculture and farming, right? These are people we see all the time who are sort of after the fact beginning to do the research they should have done before. And you know, I want us to, like, we keep talking about people who voted for. It's just not just people who voted for, it's the people who continue to support this. You can say whatever you want about, you know, being misinformed leading up to the election. The election already happened, but it's 2025. We're hearing about the tax plan, and I have not seen people beginning to push back. You know, these are your elected representatives. If you don't want them to cut the Department of Education, say something. Where is the complaining? Where is the, you know, where's the pushback to say, listen, sure, we voted you guys in, but this is not what we wanted. I'm not seeing that at all. It feels like there's a sense of people thinking to themselves, you know, I'm sure they know what they're doing. That's something I actually hear quite a bit when I do stuff like TikTok Live, is conservatives will say, oh, you think you know better than the president and his advisors on what the tax plan is going to do. And I urge you guys to think about what we are saying. Like, listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. If you cut revenue for the government through tax cuts and increase spending, you don't have to be an economist to understand that that's going to contribute to the deficit. Like, what is there to explain? What is the complicated message behind that needs me to have, you know, be some White House advisor to get that? It's such simple logic that seems to still escape people. And so I urge people, if you have a problem with how this is going, conservative or Democrat, go talk to them, okay? Don't sit down and let this happen. Don't just sit by and let this happen. This is not the law yet. There is still time to change things.
Yes, and just to be specific, please call your GOP Republican representatives and senators, because this is
we talked about this.
The Democrats' plan. This is a House resolution passed specifically by a fully GOP Republican panel. It's got nothing to do with Democrats, because I keep seeing a lot of like misinformed people asking like, what are the Democrats doing? And it's like, take the people who are pushing the plan responsible for the plan. Please call the Republicans in your state. Do not call the Democrats. They don't have power.
Yes, we did talk about this. And this is actually a good segue into our next topic, which was around, again, we talked last week about people saying the Democrats aren't doing anything. Along those lines, there are people who keep doing and saying things like, you know, where's Kamala Harris? Where's Barack Obama? You know, where's Tim Walz? People are looking for the people they told to go away to come help them. And I urge you to exercise some of that, you know, those big brains of yours, and think about who's in power, who can actually control things, and go find those people. When I say call your representatives, I definitely also don't mean Democrats. Even if a Democrat is your representative, there's at least one Republican congressperson near you in a district near you. Call that person, okay? That's the person you need to talk to about this. And that's also good advice for the people who are asking, where's Kamala? Like, you guys need to stop asking this question online. Stop making yourselves look bad, okay? And have that energy for your friends and family who voted for this, who put us in this situation. Stop asking where Kamala Harris and Barack Obama. They're on vacation and they deserve it. And we should leave them alone and fix this ourselves.
Absolutely. What is surprising to me, especially the worries Obama stuff. Obama has now come out in 2016 during the presidential election. He was also out in 2018 during the midterms. And then he came out again in 2020. My man was out there again in 2022. And then he was out there again in 2024. That is 5 separate times that he was out there. And y'all still didn't out there. They keep wheeling this man out from retirement every time Democrats are in trouble. They keep coming out. They are out there all of the time, telling you precisely what is going to happen, and then you don't listen. They come out and they tell you, vote, don't boo. Y'all take it some kind of way, and you push back against them and you yell at them.
Oh my God.
And then you don't want to, and then you're asking them, where are they? I don't get it.
No, I mean, I remember last year when people were mad at Obama. And this is white people now. The black men who are mad at Obama for what he said about, it's misogyny that's preventing them from supporting Kamala Harris. That is an intricate internal to the community discussion that they should have. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not a black man. The white people who also got upset with Barack Obama for that, the white people who are looking for Kamala Harris, no. Over 50% of you, both genders, because there's only 2, voted for Trump. You have more likelihood of success if you direct your attention to your cousins, brothers, uncles, dads, sisters, aunts, nieces, nephews, neighbors. Those are the people you need to talk to. Okay? That's who you need to go yell at but that's not step 1. Step 1 is calling your Republican congressperson and telling them not to support this tax plan. Step 2 is talking to your friends and family. And in that order, it's very important you do it in that order, because the second one is not going to have any impact without also doing the first one.
Exactly. But a quick editorial note, because I see that you're following the Trump ruling on gender.
Yes, I did say there's only 2. I want to say that's not my personal opinion. That is the opinion of the U.S. government at this time. And we are not looking for smoke in that way.
This is like Google capitulated on the Gulf of America.
Exactly. If Google can change Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, who am I to suggest there's more than 2 genders? I'm nobody. So that's where that came from. I don't want to upset anyone. I'm just telling you what the U.S. government says. Don't talk to me. Talk to the U.S. government.
Exactly. Please direct your letters to the White House. But yeah, this is completely accurate, right? You have to go back to your communities and do the painful work of hand holding them. And a lot of the research has been done about this. You don't need to be angry. You don't need to bombard them. But when things happen, please link it directly to what the current administration is doing. I liked that little note from the Alabama county where they are all losing $100 in their energy bills, right? This is a direct
hold on,
correlation.
Because not everyone knows what you're talking about, so you gotta explain, because not everyone knows.
Okay. All right. So folks were getting $100 credit on their energy bills in Alabama. I'm sorry, I forget what county, but y'all can look it up.
It's Alabama. It's fine.
Yeah. And unfortunately, these folks are having their energy bills go up by about $100 because those tax credits, energy credits, are no longer available to them.
Because of Trump. Because of Trump. Yes, because
and
of
the notice went out, and it did, just explicitly make that correlation, right? So, listen, if you're a teacher and you are in the community and people are asking you, why is so happening in our schools, after they make this cuts in the education department, just tell them like exactly what is happening, right? Like you gotta bring people along and
I
you
agree.
gotta walk them through it painfully. We gotta let people know what is correlated with what and how they vote matters. And
Yep.
that's all you can do. Stop yelling at people who don't have any power.
I mean, it's not all you can do. There's more, but I agree 100%. I've seen photos from some of the Western states. There's a lot of hiking, a lot of mountains, a lot of trails out there. Some of the trails are being closed because of short staff, because the forestry department, parks and natural resources are being, their funding is being cut. So their staffing levels are low. And so they're beginning to close trails. And I saw photos of printed out signs at the trailheads saying, this trail is closed due to staffing issues, due to the current administration. And it's like, yeah, no, exactly. That's something you can do that doesn't require you to go on threads and call anybody out. You can just do your job. We're understaffed because the government refuses to fund our department. Here's how that affects, the service that you've been using uninterrupted for X amount of years. Super easy, very small thing you can do that can have impact. It's really important if you're in one of those positions, let people know what's happening. Don't just, if you're one of those teachers who's losing funding, unfortunately, for programs in your school, let the parents know why. You may actually spur them into action to do something, right? Like last week, the big thing was all the NIH cuts that were going to affect schools, colleges, and universities and research institutions. Those cuts highlighted, lots and lots of states that receive government funding for their education institutions. And the pushback happened. Obviously, some of it went to court. But the public outcry actually pushed some Republicans, like Katie Britt, who you guys may know from her State of the Union response, to go to DC and ask, what the fuck is happening? So it's not just about the resistance or, being petty. It's actually important to let people know if the stuff they use or the services they use or benefit from are going to be impacted. It may actually spur change. It's not just pettiness.
Exactly. People only care about things that directly affect them. And we can get into the psychology of that. I don't feel like that is helpful.
No.
But you just gotta have to let people know that what happens actually directly affects them in their own backyards, right? So, like when people are wondering, why does my university, why is it only like opening at certain hours? Like, just let people know, yes, the university is closed for this period or weekends or whatever because of these cuts, right? Just let people know what is affecting their own community, because that's the only way people understand their votes. They don't necessarily understand it when folks like us who actually volunteered and went about in Trump County, they don't want to listen to strangers.
They
They don't
don't.
want to listen to preachy liberals, but they will
We're
listen
so preachy.
to you, the local pastor, the local teacher, the local plumber, whoever you are. Just let people know how these cuts are affecting you if they care about you, or affecting them if they even care about themselves.
Okay, I mean, definitely they care about themselves. Like that's actually been the theme for this whole week. It's just multiple examples of not just like the fuck around and find out or the leopards ate my face behavior, but just the really highlighting of the fact that some of the people who are coming to the realization now that maybe this guy isn't actually for them are doing it specifically because of impacts that are directly affecting their lives, right? And that's the only thing that shook them out of this nonsense, right? Like when Trump put in the tariffs on U.S. and on Canada and Mexico, was it 2 weeks ago now? People were kind of like in shock. Some people were actually shocked that had happened, even though, again, he had broadcast this the entire time he was running. But some people were in shock. And that made them rethink. I would see conservatives say, online, this is kind of dumb. Why is he doing that? So, until it impacts them, they don't know. So please share far and wide what the impacts are in your community. It really does help.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree. I'm just hoping that the selfishness would actually lead to some collective progress for all of us, because we have to live with these people, right? And you're right. It's very funny, like seeing some of these posts where they're like under Elon Musk's social account or Trump's social account saying, "Oh yeah, I completely agree with all the cuts you're making, but like, can you keep my own job specifically?" It's
Right. Yep.
it's so mind blowing.
Multiple government employees who got quote cut or laid off are now going to Elon's Twitter and Trump's Twitter and Doge's Twitter to say, hey, that contract you canceled, that was for my company. That, that job you cut, that was for me. I've seen that, and unfortunately, again, we told you so, but also continue to share those stories because it actually might help.
Absolutely. I mean, cutting 334 million from the University of Alabama. I'm pretty sure there's probably some people thinking, oh, well, I don't care. It's just the overeducated people at the universities anyways. But guess what? Like, all of the housing around that area, right? All of the restaurants around that area, all of the businesses around that area. Like, I don't know, those students love a coffee shop.
They do.
And they love to go there with their computers. What are those places going to do if University of Alabama has to start making cuts? Actually, universities are making cuts, right? They are merging departments, or some of them are even like shutting down their on-campus housing and things like that. They are reducing their student bodies. Like, that has a knock-on effect in many states across the country. Universities are actually the largest employer in that state. So, like, what are we doing? We were told that Trump was running on reducing unemployment, right? And if we allow Trump to continue to make cuts in the federal government jobs, which is the biggest employer in the country, and then continue to make cuts across universities, which is some of the biggest employers in many, many states, that's just simple math. The unemployment rate is going to go up, right? And it's going to affect all of the businesses attached to those jobs. So I just don't see how this ends well for all of us.
I don't either. I mean, especially in some of the states like Alabama. Like in Alabama, the university is actually one of the largest employers in the entire state. So
exactly,
if they have to make cuts, they may close departments, they may raise tuition, which is also bad considering we just talked about how much it costs to like get yourself and improve your situation if you go the college route. So there's so many ways in which these budgets and tax plans are going to be negatively impacting people. And like we said, we want you to know you don't have to just complain online. You can do stuff. You can do stuff. And by complain, I mean complain about Democrats or complain about Kamala missing or whatever. You can do more than that. And so we urge you, and really we urge white people. Let's be clear, that's who we're talking to a lot of the time when we say you guys. Just, you can do more, okay? Don't just spend time on Kamala Harris and where she is. Don't worry about her. She's fine.
Absolutely. I don't recall ever wondering where like Hillary was. And it's so funny because actually Black people and Black women specifically actually voted overwhelmingly for Hillary Clinton, right? And I just don't remember any like group of Black women going around wondering like where Hillary was, right? Like what they actually did afterwards was run for office in record numbers, right? And also increase their voter turnout, right? Like this is the energy we need from the rest of the Democratic coalition.
Right.
Like,
what did Black women do after 2016? They mobilized and gave us, Georgia in the 2020 election, which
Exactly.
Biden needed to win. You know, they gave us people like Jasmine Crockett. So, like, get it together, America, okay?
That is all. Just do something other than tweet about it. So, in I don't know if I should say less upsetting or more upsetting news.
It depends. It depends where you stand on the, like, you know, world annihilation or city annihilation spectrum. But we want to talk about our unsolicited advice this week, which we haven't done this in a while, so I'm glad we're getting back to it. And this week, our unsolicited advice is for a celestial body named, this name is so lame, 2024 YR4. That you heard that right, 2024 YR4, which is an asteroid. The first piece of unsolicited advice is, first of all, get a better name. We don't like that name at all. We need you to do better. And the second piece of advice is for the asteroid, please stay away from us. You don't want any smoke. Have you seen Armageddon? We have this asteroid that our scientists, you know, the ones that we're talking about defunding, found an asteroid that has, it was initially about a 1.5% chance of hitting Earth, that increased to over 2% chance of hitting Earth. That might sound small, but as Olu pointed out, 2% chance of hitting Earth is still 1 out of 50 chance of something happening, which is not great, if you ask me. So we just want this asteroid to know that it needs to stay away from us. It doesn't want any smoke from us. We have a Space Force.
Yes, please get better brand managers or social media managers, because that name is terrible.
It's really terrible.
Secondly, I don't know, like, have you seen us? Right now, what do you have? Like, we've done more extinction than you could ever possibly do. So.
So you're like, you don't have to damage us. We can damage ourselves, okay?
I know.
We don't need help. We don't need help from space rocks to do that.
Don't threaten us with a good time.
No. But honestly, I think that the thing that was most annoying to me was one of the places where there was a chance of it hitting was the, quote, Eastern Pacific Ocean. And I was like, that's the West Coast? Like, hello. Don't come here. What do you mean the Eastern Pacific Ocean? You stay out of our neighborhood, okay? I mean, the thing about this asteroid is, you know, the scientists are kind of sure what size it is. It's really, the amount of damage it's going to do is going to be related to how big it is. They said they think it's around 65 feet wide, which doesn't sound like a lot, but could be really bad if it lands, you know, if it hits a populated area. Now, what's happening now is it's kind of making its orbit about to go behind the sun and loop around behind the sun and come back. And so they have till April to track it and get more information about it. And then it's going to disappear around the sun in April and not make another appearance until 2028, election year.
Which is just unfortunate.
It's so unfortunate. Horrendous timing, horrendous name for this asteroid. But 2028, it's going to make its way around the sun, come back again where we could see it. And then we should be heading in our direction. And so we'll have more information on what size it is, whether it's where it's going to hit, if it's going to hit, all of that. But we just want to tell 2024 YR4 now, you know, as you leave us and go behind the sun to your orbit, think about whether or not you want to come back. I would suggest not. Just my thoughts.
Just make better choices, asteroid.
I know, make better choices. That's our unsolicited advice. Make better choices.
Thank you for joining us this week. We have been Olu and Liz. Please do join us next week. As usual, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and liberalbanter.com, or everywhere else where you listen to your podcasts. See you next week. Bye-bye now.